Hello and welcome back to the Real EFL's YouTube channel. As you've already seen by the title, it completely gives the idea of the video away. But we're looking at something that's quite topical at the minute, and that is the fixture release. So I'll be looking at the 10 easiest, although I don't think any game or team that you come up against in the EFL is technically easy. Looking at the 10 easiest starts to the season, I guess you could call them, for sides in League 2, League 1 and the Championship. So they've been all grouped together. I'm kind of basing this off of the first 5 games. We've also seen the EFL Cup, or the Carabao Cup, and the EFL Trophy fixtures also be released this week. Those won't be mentioned, potentially in another video, but not in this one. Look at my team, Carlisle. I'm not featuring us in the video because we've got, I think it's Gillingham, then Barrow, then MK Dons to start the season, which isn't the easiest. So we won't be one of the 10 teams in here. But we might as well just get on and start with the first one now. Bear in mind that this is all subjective, so some people might not agree with me on these, but I think the team that have got the 10th easiest start to the season is Plymouth Argyle. And I think they're a team that I think are going to struggle a bit next term, and the appointment of Wayne Rooney doesn't really fill me with a lot of confidence. Sorry, Plymouth fans. But nonetheless, he's got quite a good run to try and get some points on the board at the start of the season. Just one of their first 5 fixtures sees them play a side who finished in the top 15 last season. And although next year will be very different, some confidence can be taken from that. See, Sheffield Wednesday away isn't an easy way to start the season. However, they have won 3 of their last 5 encounters, albeit all of those are at home park. The next 2 sees them welcome Hull before travelling to London to face QPR, both who could be pretty much anything, I guess. And then they have 2 home fixtures, both which could be considered favourable. First, return of Stephen Schumacher and his Stoke side, before Sunderland under new manager Roger Lebris. And I think they're both winnable as well. Stoke, they've recruited fairly well, and I think Sunderland are an unknown entity, kind of under Lebris. We don't know what kind of direction they're going to go in, and also see how they go with the rest of their business this transfer window. And I think 3 matches at home makes it far more favourable for the Pilgrims, who'll be looking to make a good start in, I suppose, what could be described as a new era for the club. Okay, at number 9, we've got Coventry City, who missed out on the playoffs last term, finishing 9th. And that's potentially down to the FA Cup run that they had, obviously getting into the semi-finals, which may have derailed those ambitions. And they'll want to attack the top 6 again with very favourable opening fixtures. The Sky Blues' first 5 fixtures see them play just one side who finished in the top 10 last season. That being Norwich, who are also somewhat of an unknown quantity following the sacking of David Wagner. Their opening game season travelled to Stoke City, who are potentially a side on the up under Stephen Schumacher, prior to then hosting the newly promoted Oxford United. Having gained promotion from League One via the playoffs last season, Oxford are favourites for relegation, and it's a matchup which speaks kindly. I think it's great that Oxford are in the Championship, and it's really good to have a new team in the Championship, but it might be a step too far for the U's. So I think for Coventry, at least, that's quite a favourable one early on. They then face Bristol City away before welcoming Norwich to the Coventry Building Society Arena. What could be quite a tasty game. And I think the game against Norwich is the hardest one of their opening 5. The final of their opening 5 sees them then travel to Vicarage Road to Watford in what is a winnable fixture. It's not an easy run, but I think we can see Mark Robins' side potentially getting 9 or 10 points here, and that's why I've got them in 9th on the list. Okay, now dropping down into League 2 for number 8, and it's one of the favourites for promotion next season, that being Stuart Maynard's Notts County. Maynard has already addressed their defensive problems of last season, which saw them have the worst defensive record in the entirety of the 4th tier. They brought in the likes of Jacob Bedeau, Rob McDonald and Matty Platt, which are all to shore up that defence. Combine those new signings with one of the best attacks in the league, and there's a lot to like. There's also a lot to like about their opening fixtures, with 3 of their first 5 at Meadow Lane. And the highest ranked opponents from last season, bar the relegated Fleetwood, who could be absolutely anything, are Tranmere, who finished 16th. They start on the road to Tranmere prior to them welcoming the aforementioned Fleetwood, and then Grimsby, who finished in 21st last season. Swindon away on the 31st of August is arguably their hardest fixture, with the Robins recruiting well so far this window. Harry Smith, a player from Sutton, who I'm a huge fan of, and I think he's a great signing for them, as well as former Crawley man Will Wright. I think they've gone about their business the right way. Well, I say fairly early into the window. I'm recording this in late June. So they've done some good business so far. Rounding off the first 5 is Accrington away, and I don't think Stanley are that ambitious of a side, and there could be 3 points there. I'd expect at least 3 wins for the Magpies, which will set them up very well for what could be quite a big year for the club. Cheltenham. What is happening to them this window? They're a side that have been absolutely torn apart. You're seeing the amount of players that they're losing. They've lost Darryl Clark to Barnsley. I think I've already said there's a couple of teams that I don't have a clue the direction they're going to go in. Cheltenham, I don't think we'll be seeing towards the pointy end of the table. I don't think we'll see them gain an immediate promotion back to League One. However, the appointment of Michael Flynn is a positive one, and he'll be facing his old club Newport for their first game of the season at the completely Suzuki Stadium. Grimsby away then follows before hosting AFC Wimbledon, who could well be the toughest of that opening 5. Walsall away could also be tricky, but the Saddlers have lost some key players, including Isaac Hutchinson, who left to join Bristol Rovers earlier in the window. I think Walsall maybe aren't going to be the same side, as they were last season. Finally, Harrogate at home is a winnable one, and a majority of their early games being at home also aids their cause. I don't see them being well beaters, more so a mid-table side. They can at least get off to a good start. Okay, now in 6th, we've got another League 2 side. I'm not saying it's easy just because it's League 2, but there's a lot of League 2 teams, as well as League 1 later on, you'll find that out, that I think have just got easier fixtures than some of the Championship ones. The Championship fixtures are kind of a bit more varied, bar 1 or 2. And for Crewe, after suffering heartbreak in the playoff final last year, they'll be looking to bounce back. And with League 2 potentially being more open, obviously we've lost Stockport, Mansfield and Wrexham, I think they've got a good chance. And under Lee Bell, will probably be around about the same position again next season. Their first 5 fixtures are also fairly favourable. Barrow away, Chesterfield and Swindon at home before going on the road to face the newly promoted Bromley and then welcoming Morecambe to the Mornflake Stadium. Take Chesterfield, who are promotion favourites, out of this, and it speaks for a very good start for the Alex. Then again, playing Chesterfield early is also a good thing, as they could still be finding their feet in the division. Barrow losing Pete Wild is a huge loss, and this isn't me just saying it as a Carlisle fan, but I don't think Barrow will be anywhere near as high next term. And having already mentioned, I think Swindon will be better, but it's another home fixture for them. Bromley and Morecambe are 2 of the favourites for relegation, and although that is harsh on the former, especially given the impressive performances from sides who have just been promoted into League 2 in recent years, they do seem up against it. Look at Morecambe with all of the financial problems surrounding them. They're in a fair bit of trouble at the time of recording, at least. And I think they'll get relegated as things stand, which will probably make me look like an idiot when they get taken over or whatever happens to them and probably get promoted, like I said about Crawley last season. But for Crewe, I think 7 points minimum here. But it could be up to... It's not out of question that they could pick up maybe 10, 11, 12. And I think they're going to be another team who are towards pointy end of things next season. I swear this isn't just me just listing off League 2 teams, but in 5th we do have Harrogate, who in my eyes have the easiest run to begin the year in the 4th tier. A home fixture on the first day against the newly promoted Bromley is a banana skin, I guess we could say, but it is obviously one of the easier first games. They're then on the road against Accrington and Colchester before hosting Barrow and then once again travelling, this time to Cheltenham. There's no one out of the 5 there that really jump out to me currently as a really tough fixture. Improvements are expected from Colchester, and Cheltenham could be tricky, but I don't think they've done enough this window to justify them being a hard fixture, if you want to call it that. So I think Harrogate, in League 2 at least, they've got the easiest 5 opening games. They won't finish as high as last season, but we could well see them in the top half early on in the year. Moving into League 1 for what can be considered the 4th easiest, I guess, fixture run to begin the new EFL season. And I'm going with Barnsley, and I think Darryl Clark is a very fortunate man and has been dealt a great little run to begin the season. You look and they're facing 2 of the newly promoted sides in Mansfield and Crawley in their opening 5 fixtures, and only have to face one side who finished in the top half last season, travelling to Sincil Bank to face Lincoln City. I am going to mention it, but I didn't want to remind Barnsley fans about the last time that they met with Lincoln. Obviously, we're on the bad end of a 5-1 thumping, but I think the scores will be a lot closer now. And I think Barnsley are a team that could be one to look out for next season. Their other 2 fixtures are both at home against Northampton and Bristol Rovers, both who were in mid-table last season. I expect the former to regress and the latter to somewhat progress on their placement last season. But ultimately, it's an incredibly easy start for the Tykes, so I think we'll be targeting, at the very least, the playoffs again next season. Okay, in third place, we're going back to the Championship. At long last, I feel like it's been quite a while since I've probably put a Championship side in. And we've gone from Middlesbrough here, and I don't think it's just because it's the hardest division, obviously the Championship being the top of the EFL, if you want to call it that. But I don't think there are many sides who have got an easy run. That is apart from Middlesbrough. Michael Carrick's side should be at very least a playoff team in my eyes, and they should make a very good start to the year. Unlike that of last season, which I guess you could kind of say derailed any promotion ambitions that they may have had. They start with Swansea at the Riverside before then facing both the newly promoted Derby County and Portsmouth. I think those two, in fact, could be the hardest fixtures for them, especially the latter, who I reckon could be a top half side and have recruited well so far this summer. Cardiff away is then certainly a winnable game, and I think the Bluebirds will struggle this season. Likewise, Preston North End, who lost 7 of their last 8, they should also be further down the table next year. I've got a lot of confidence in Borough being a playoff side, and a good start is certainly on the cards here. Okay, now with number 2, I'm going back to League One. And it's a team that we've got a lot of fans from here at the Real EFL. You've guessed it, that is Lincoln City. And after missing out on the playoffs last season by the finest of margins, sorry to remind people, the Imps will want to be targeting the postseason. Or not targeting, they want to be in the postseason this time around. Burton away, I think, is a great opening day fixture. And although I think Burton they look stronger, potentially, they've done some good business so far this summer. They are undergoing quite a rebuild, and I think their players may not have gelled by the first game of the season. Spoke about the Imps' previous result against Barnsley earlier in the video, and I think the Tykes likewise may take some time to get going. Mansfield brings some quality to the division, but not the same amount as others, and I think a home fixture speaks in Lincoln's favour. They then have Stevenage, who could really struggle next season after losing Steve Evans, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them near the bottom of the table. It's another great fixture for Michael Skubala's side. Finally, Northampton at home. Once again, being at home aids their chances, and all of their harder games to start are at Sincil Bank. I think the Imps will make a good start to the new campaign, and they're another that I don't know if they'll be in the playoffs. Sorry, because I know a lot of our viewers are Lincoln fans, but I think at the very least it's going to be a top 10 finish next season. So we've made it this far, and we're now at number 1. I'll just remind everyone, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe below, it'll be just under the video, and also click on notifications so that you never miss a video. I'll do a little drum roll. For number 1, I've gone for Burton Albion. Yes, Burton Albion. And I think new manager Mark Robinson couldn't have been dealt a better set of cards to start the season. Similar to Lincoln, they take on the likes of Mansfield, Stevenage and Northampton, all which are winnable games on paper. Facing off with the Imps is easily their hardest in my eyes. However, that is out of the way on match day 1. Finally, they host Crawley on the 7th of September. Given Scott Lindsay's side have lost the likes of Danilo Orsi, Corey Adai and Kaledi Lolos, I expect them to struggle. Then again, I said that last year, and look how that worked out. The Brewers are actually the ones who have gained the services of Orsi, which is a signing which could work out really well for them. Add in the signings of the likes of Elliot Watt and Ben Whitfield, and I think they'll have a far better campaign than their nail-biting escape last season. However, if they want to give themselves the best chance of survival, they need to make a good start, as these fixtures, to me, look like they should be getting, although they're not as ambitious as maybe some other clubs in the division, they should be getting anywhere between about 7 and 10 points here. And we could see them get a bit of a head start in the fight for survival. Thank you very much for watching another Real EFL YouTube video. If you enjoyed this one, please give it a like, share it with a friend and subscribe and turn notifications on. Absolutely everything that I'm just listing off out of my brain. And also let us know what you make of your team's start. We'll also be doing a top 10 hardest. Bear in mind this is subjective, so you might not agree with it. But if you do agree with us, let us know in the comments. And see you in the next video.